Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome back to Find Your Strong podcast. We are very excited because we are speaking to Dr. Kamila Irvine today, who is a senior lecturer in body image and eating disorders at the School of Psychology, Sports Science and Wellbeing at the University of Lincoln. She teaches and researches all things body image in the context of eating disorders and beyond there. Her research work encompasses a number of multidimensional themes and interests, including intervention and prevention, LGBTQIA+, weight stigma and anti-fat bias, and perceptual body image. Her main teaching responsibility is her module Body Image and Eating Disorders for third-year psychology students, and she's soon to start teaching third-year medical students too, which is great news. She also supervises research projects of dissertation master students as well as PhD students, and she works closely with Body Happy Org and First Steps Eating Disorders charity. Now that sounds amazing. Also sounds very serious, but I promise you Kamila is anything but. She's a proper laugh, and we're really excited to have you here. Welcome, Kamila.
Hi. Yeah,
Hi.
I'm not very serious at all, am I?
Do you know what I thought was great that you teach body image and eating disorders to third-year psychology students, because I don't know if anyone knows this, but my undergraduate degree was in psychology way back when, and we didn't even touch on that at all. We touched on eating disorders a little bit, but there was absolutely no mentioning of body image in any of that. So I think it's fabulous that things have moved on a little bit, and that is part of the course and the curriculum. So yeah, I'm very excited to hear that.
Yes, I had an elective in eating disorders when I was an undergrad, and I know that there are quite a few different institutions that do have it, and it is quite a popular topic. But that spin of adding body image to it, apparently I'm the only one who's doing that.
Wow.
I've looked at as many universities as I could possibly do. I think I conked out about 40 or 50 universities where I was checking. Because like if you go to a university website, you can see this is what we are offering as part of the course. And yeah, quite often there was an elective on eating disorders, but not on body image. And because my main thing was body image, I was like, I need to involve this. And you can't really talk eating disorders without body image, and you can't really talk body image without eating disorders. So
Yeah.
it works, in my opinion.
Yeah. It needs to be, I think it needs to be in there. I mean, it's so intricately linked to eating disorders, to all sorts of mental health issues, and in particular in young people, I think it's crazy. It's not. And in terms of the starting to teach the third-year medical students, is that similar kind of syllabus?
So that's currently in development.
Okay.
I do want to include as much as I can of not just eating this. I don't want to do this sort of learning about it that I received when I was learning about eating disorders. My module is very much focused on understanding it more broadly, not the sort of classic misconception and myths. And unfortunately, a lot of what is out there is that. I'm very much focused on contextualizing it all within things like weight stigma, within the historical, sociocultural, geopolitical context of where things like I said, weight stigma, diet culture, appearance ideals, muscularity ideals, toxic masculinity, where all of that is coming from. What is the impact of that on body image? And then how is that extended to eating disorders? And if I'm going to be teaching GPs who are often like that first hurdle in getting disorder treatment, they need to have that nuanced understanding of it. And on top of that, I then focus my teaching on specific groups that have been under-researched, underrepresented, not included in that kind of classic understanding of eating disorders. So, for example, with my students, we specifically focus on neurodiversity separately. We look at LGBTQIA plus populations. We look at men. We look at BAME, BIPOC. We look at older populations. So we're not just focusing on teenagers and young adults. We're looking at the impacts of things like pregnancy and menopause and life changes, kind of having that start like the domino effect of potentially a person having a negative relationship with their body. And also we look at emerging trends, so things like orthorexia. We look at the impact of diabetes and eating disorders. So yeah, we do a lot. I only have a 12-week course, but we do a lot of content.
Wow. That's amazing, isn't it? I mean, there's so much in there. It's all I'm eating my hair here, sorry. There's just so much important stuff that in particular GPs and psychology students need to know. And I'm so pleased that that is part of the teaching. But how, I mean, you said that in terms of psychology students, you haven't found any other university that teaches that module. Is it the same for GPs, medical students? Because
I haven't looked into it in that much depth. There was that
Mm.
paper a couple of years back by Agnes Ayton, and I can't remember the second author, sorry. Essentially what they were looking at was which med schools actually teach eating disorders, but there was like no mention of body image as such. And then when it comes to the content of what they are teaching them, I don't know what's in those electives.
yeah.
I do know some people that I could potentially talk to. So for example, just this week I'm meeting with Dr. Chucks, because when it comes to developing the course that I'm about to be delivering from autumn, I asked him, like, you know, is there anything you want to help with? And he was like, I would love to for Club Majority to be involved. So yeah, we are having a chat on Wednesday to find out what we can do together to kind of make it a little bit more all-encompassing, because I'm not a medical professional, right? I don't know if I'm a GP what that would look like. So I do need that input from my colleagues and my friends to like tell me what they also need to learn about. I can tell them about the psychology, but after that, I do need that help and support as well.
Yeah.
There's so much that we could touch on here. I've kind of got a lot of experience with eating disorders, sadly, as has my daughter, and you know, some of my daughter's friends. She's 15, and it's kind of that age is very susceptible to eating disorders and body image issues. I'd love to talk to you about the correlation between body image and eating disorders. I always, in my kind of limited understanding, believed, I mean, my body image has always been shockingly bad and I've worked very hard on it. But I always thought I was more susceptible than other people to eating disorders, maybe due to neurodiversity. But is there a susceptibility there? So not everybody who's got poor body image is going to then end up with an eating disorder. So what is the link between, do you know, I mean, is it just do you know
So
what
I'm going to tell you about flower theory of cake.
Yeah.
This is going to end up being the title of my book. So basically, when my students ask me like, oh, is it this that caused an eating disorder? Or is it this that caused an eating disorder? I always tell them this, because I'm a baker. I go, if I made you a delicious chocolate cake, right? And you were enjoying it and you go, oh my God, this is a delicious cake. What made it so delicious? I cannot explain to you what made it delicious by focusing on explaining the type of flour that I used, right? I also need to look at the other ingredients used. So I need to look at, you know, eggs. Are they free range? Were they refrigerated? Were they room temperature? Did I use butter or did I use margarine? Did I use baking powder or baking soda? Like all of these different things kind of have to come together in order to make the batter. And then on top of that, what's my oven like? Right? Is it new and heating evenly? Is it a bit old and naff? What if I made batter and I gave some of it to you and you put it in your oven, I put it in my oven? Is it going to come out the same? What kind of skill level do we have? There is so much to consider, but at the end of it, there is cake. There is chocolate. We can follow the same recipe, do it at 2 different skill levels, using different ingredients, using different ovens. At the end, you have a cake, but it's done slightly different. It's got the same ingredients. So that's why if you think of it like, oh, the eggs is your neurodiversity, the flour is your body image, your butter is your parents, the oven is your sociocultural context, so on and so forth. I quite often have that as an image when I teach my students, where I have like this lovely chocolate cake and I have all of these different ingredients and it just has like genes, biology, whatever, you know. So chances are your body image would have made you susceptible, right? There would have been some sort of activating event. So you have your predisposing factors that you were born with. You've got your predisposing factors that you have developed. You have your protective factors, because not everybody would react exactly the same. So we always talk about predisposing, precipitating, perpetuating, and protective factors. And all of these have to come together to make an eating disorder or to make negative body image. And everybody is going to experience this uniquely because their cake is different.
Wow.
You have got to write that as your book. That has got to be the title of your book. That's I've never heard it explained that way. And that will hopefully make a lot of sense to everybody.
I say I've come up with it myself, but actually, props to my husband. He actually coined the term flower theory of cake.
I love that. It makes so much sense when you explain it like that, because everyone, I mean, not everyone, most people will have baked a cake, and most people know that sometimes the cake turns out okay, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we don't have the right ingredients, and sometimes, you know, there's all sorts of variables and factors in there.
Yeah.
That's,
and if you're not into cake, maybe a bread, maybe a soup or a stew or whatever. I don't care. It could be a casserole. Just some, like, it literally works so well for, and because it's food on top of that, it just amuses me so much.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
It's just a complex thing. It's, you know, it's not, there's been a lot of sort of talking about sort of diets and, you know, the research around if you diet, you're much more likely to then develop an eating disorder. You're 7 times more. There's lots of different stats around that you never quite know which one is the correct one, or how much research has actually been done. But it's never that simple, is it?
Yeah,
it's never that simple.
It's interesting because, like, I know people who basically seem to enjoy dieting. I think they enjoy the rules that come with the diet, and then I kind of immediately like, oh, are we neurodivergent? But the thing with dieting, like I always say, like, I'm not anti-weight loss as such, right? Sometimes if you choose to lose the weight because, I don't know, you genuinely do want to have better flexibility and like the fat tissue is getting in the way, you can't, like, whatever, right? What I am against is the dieting part of it, because most dieting behaviors are thinly veiled eating disorder behaviors, right? So not eating according to your internal cues, not eating according to your satiety, your kind of preferences, the pleasure of eating, the negative thoughts that come with it, the I must eat this, I should eat this, I cannot eat this, whatever. Last night, 2 o'clock in the morning, I was having a sandwich, right? Genuinely. And there are so many people like, oh no, don't eat at night. Why not? I was hungry. I'm going to respect my body and I'm going to have a sandwich, right? And what would happen if I didn't have that sandwich? I would try to go to sleep. It would be hard to fall asleep while I'm genuinely lying there with my belly growling. I would impact my sleep. And then I would wake up even more hungry. And chances are that then I'm going to eat way more than I would normally eat, or how much I would eat following the fact that I have eaten at 2 o'clock in the morning.
And you're slipping into weird behaviors, weird thoughts, weird guilt and shame around eating. It's very easy to slip into that, for sure.
Yeah. And then how do I feel about myself?
Yeah, exactly. Interesting you said that sort of slight sort of on the side remark about neurodivergence. You tell us more about the link, because that's where I met you for the first. Well, I met you. You didn't meet me because you were a speaker in a course that I took, and you were talking about in particular the link between eating disorders, disordered eating, and neurodivergence. Can you tell us a little bit more about the link?
Yeah, so basically this is something that I introduced in my own module. Like, as a result of, I think it was Bernie's was it NEDA course?
Yep, it was in
yeah,
NED, yeah.
So I introduced it on my course because I was on course with Bernie.
Oh, right.
And then I kind of started reading into it about it more, and I was like, oh, this needs to be covered. Like, I need to have more, because like up until then I didn't really involve it. I was just maybe briefly mentioning it about within the context of like ARFID and things, or PICA. So then I was like, oh, I need to develop some more content for this. So I started looking at it, and it's interesting that some of it could be, for example, masking, right? Or it could be camouflaging. So like the concealment of these autistic traits could be that the person is trying to fit in with their friends, right? So they are dieting because everybody else is dieting. This is what should be they feel like that's what I should be doing, right? And then part of it is the accompanying mental health that is related to being neurodivergent. So things like predisposition for anxiety and depression and stress, feelings of isolation, the emotional sensitivity, the fact that, for example, with autistic people, they are often very acutely aware of the feelings of other people because they study them so thoroughly, right? Because they're trying to fit in, they're trying to do what everybody else is doing. So they may be paying a lot of attention to like what other people are doing. They are also sensitive to negative moods of others and their own as well. There's this disappointment and anxiety that kind of can be hypersensitive to. So most research is related to autism and ADHD. So in terms of autism, there's a lot of focus on restrictive eating disorders. In terms of ADHD, oh my God, what it is they tend to look at overeating and binge eating and impulsivity and obesity. Like those are the kind of keywords that go together there. But essentially, what we focus on in terms of looking at autism with my students is things like the hypersensitivity and hyposensitivity. So if you are hypersensitive to smells, right, it could be that you cannot have particularly strong smelling food, right? Or on the other hand, if you particularly enjoy strong smells, you may want to have more smelly, pungent food, right? Something that smells really strong that you can smell like when you're walking down the street, right? Same with taste. There could be dislike of certain flavors. There could be preference for bland food. There could be difficulties with texture, stuff like that. So like you kind of go like, oh, food, you know. Or it could be that they enjoy really strong flavors, right? So because of that, the person's interests in food can be somewhat different than of a person who is neurotypical. And then additionally, you've got, you know, all of the things like hyposensitivity with other senses like touch and vision, interoception, proprioception, all of that kind of stuff. So because of the sensory processing differences, the impact that they can have is not just in terms of food, but also how they experience their bodies. So, for example, how they experience fabrics on their body, how they experience water during a shower, how they experience hotness, coldness, that sort of thing. So these physical sensations can influence your body image. When it comes to things like social pressures and challenges in communication, it could be that it's about social norms or these kind of expectations related to appearance. So it could make people like feel excluded or different, so they may try to fit in. Like I said, the comorbidities are like on top of that, so it could be like causing some anxiety or stress, you know, like, am I like all the other girls, you know, maybe I should be doing this, or like all the other boys are doing this, so I should be doing this, whatever. And then also with neurodiversity, there could be like executive function that is a little bit different in people with neurodiversity, so that can affect things like self-care, grooming, whatever, right? And that can have then an impact on the person's confidence or their hygiene, body image, that sort of stuff. So it basically boils down to like cognitive processes, thinking styles that could be like difficulty with bigger picture thinking, difficulty with flexibility, where it's like, that's the rule, that's how I must do it, you know. That impulsivity, especially with like ADHD, the emotion regulation, the coping mechanisms of stimming, for example. Then you have added things like the masking, the stereotypes, the social stigma. If there's medication, there might be weight gain or maybe weight loss. People will be commenting on that, and we all know how that goes. So there is a lot that comes with simply being neurodiverse that is creating a potential like risk factor or potential maintenance factor to a person's either body image or eating habits, and that can essentially in a predisposed person make an eating disorder kind of manifest itself or to become entrenched. So it's a risk factor basically.
Wow.
We love a tangent, right?
Love it, but that, I mean, it kind of makes a lot of sense. And would you say then the neurodivergence is a sort of an activating factor in the whole thing? So you have that predisposition, neurodivergence. It sounds like a huge. It's so complex, isn't it? Because there's so many different aspects of it that could then lead you down a path of very disordered eating and eating disorders. Doesn't have to, but I mean, from experience of working with clients, I would say that the majority that have had eating disorders or have quite severe disordered eating, they are neurodivergent.
Yeah. So yeah, it could be
definitely a link there.
It could be predisposing or it could be perpetuating. It could be both. Right. So that's why I was talking to a friend who works in private practice, and she said, especially with younger clients of hers, when she has a person presenting for treatment, and it sounds like it's a restrictive eating disorder, she always goes like, is it neurodivergence or is it a de facto eating disorder? So I do believe that people working in eating disorders should have good understanding of neurodivergence because if it is there, it's going to have an impact on how that eating disorder is maintained. And B, it's going to have an impact on the treatment because the treatment may not be suitable for a person who is neurodiverse. So, you know, give a worksheet to a person who has ADHD and they will lose it. Or, you know, they may be like, that's the rules. That's how I need to be doing this. And like, you need to have that flexibility. Maybe you need to have more consideration for making sure that you always schedule the person at the same time. Maybe that there is, you know, that need for consistency in the person. Maybe you need to consider what your setup is like in your office. Like if this person is hypersensitive to lights, can I dim the lights or can I turn them off and have a side light on, you know, to like make this person not physically overwhelmed and stimulated so that they can be relaxed, so they can engage in that conversation with me. Do they need fidget toys? Can they sit comfortably in a chair? Or should we take it onto a sofa, the floor, go to the park, like, you know, within confidentiality bounds, of course. But it might just be, you know, what do you need in order for you to be comfortable with me? In order for you to be comfortable in the situation that you are, so that we can open up and start unpacking other things that are going on.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, complex, isn't it?
Yeah.
Christine, you look pensive.
I know, I always look pensive. This is my resting face. I heard the interoceptive awareness, it's dulled a little bit in, is it people with ADHD? I've got ADHD, late diagnosed. But you know, and it's something that I've sort of worked hard to be an intuitive eater, but I've always really struggled to be an intuitive eater. And I kind of prefer the plan and to know what I'm eating and all of
Yeah.
that. But I've really worked hard to tune into my signals. But I did read that if you do have ADHD, you struggle with interoception. Is that something you know anything about, or have you done anything in your research around that?
I haven't done any, like, personally, I haven't collected data, but like I don't talk about topics that I haven't looked into thoroughly. So in terms of interoception, it could be that hyposensitivity means that you do not really feel your hunger cues, that you are out of touch with your internal cues, with your emotions. Maybe you also do not recognize when you are tired. So it is possible. I'm not saying everybody who's neurodivergent has that, but certainly there are plenty of people who do. Or it could be the other way around. It could be that you have hypersensitivity and you have this really strong internal sensory awareness. So yeah, like that should also be considered. Like if let's say you are treating a person with an eating disorder and you are trying to get them to listen to their hunger cues, that may not work if they simply cannot recognize them. If they need that external prompt of like, hey, when was the last time you've eaten? Are you hydrated? You've not drank anything for 6 hours, or like, when was the last time you had a wee? You know, so that may need to be considered as part of that person's treatment plan and like the maintenance plan post discharge from treatment, because they may simply not be able to do it.
Yeah. This is just fascinating to me, all of this information. And it's, you know, when you were talking earlier about broadening the scope of eating disorders, or sort of that, you know, obviously there's a typical, I'm inverted commas, idea of what somebody with an eating disorder looks like. And there's nothing that angers me more than this. Nothing, because we've had experience with CAMS and lots of the mental health services that have treated my daughter and myself. I mean, there's limited resources and people are doing their absolute best, and there's no blame from my side, but it is simply that anorexia looks like this. Your weight is stable and fine, so you don't have anorexia. You may have atypical anorexia, but you don't need to stop doing any of the behaviors you're doing. Come back when you actually tip the scale underneath it. You know, that is what my friend's daughter was told. At the moment, you don't need to stop doing anything. If your weight drops to here, then we'd need to. So what happened? Her weight dropped to there because she wasn't doing it well enough. So, and it just, you know, so these are, as you were saying, dieting behaviors are sort of disordered eating behaviors. And it's okay if you look a certain way, you can involve yourself in those behaviors. That's fine. And it's just so far not fine. It's so far from fine, and it's normalized everywhere, isn't it?
Normalization is one of the biggest problems, is that we've normalized so much of it that a person losing weight rapidly will be congratulated. And it could be that they are struggling with an eating disorder, could be that they have cancer. Maybe they started a new medication that is suppressing their appetite. You just don't know why that's happening. I lost a bunch of weight and everybody was like, oh, looking slim. And my reaction to that is this. One, do you not know what I do for a living? Right? Because he doesn't say that to me. Two, stress will do that to you. You know? So, hello, that is not a purposeful thing. So when it comes to that normalization of it, one of the things that we did not so long ago with one of my students, she was writing her dissertation and she wanted to particularly speak to parents of kids who have recovered from an eating disorder. It didn't matter what age the kid was now, it would just matter like that they were recovered at this point, because we wanted for the family to kind of not be in that panicked state of, you know, we need to go through treatment. So we spoke to the parents about the signs that they've missed. Now, in hindsight, now that you know what was going on, now that your kid is recovered, what was it? What were the warning signs? And they all spoke pretty much about the exact same thing of, you know, oh, no, it's normal for a teenage girl to be concerned about her looks. Oh, it's normal for a boy to want to be stronger and more muscular. You know, he's becoming a man, you know. And it's that normalization that made these parents be okay with those behaviors. And like, not to say that you can't have a daughter who's concerned and she's not doing anything additional. But what they didn't know was problematic. They were seeing that tip of the iceberg, and they didn't see the other things. They didn't see, obviously, the thoughts and the emotions that were accompanying those behaviors. So like, if your child is allowing you to see that, first of all, they feel safe knowing that you're not going to panic, right? About the fact that they all of a sudden like really concerned about like, I'm never eating carbs and sugar again in my life. But you may not know that your child is then getting up in the middle of the night and exercising while nobody is looking, right? You don't know that the lunch that you have given them is not going straight in the bin. You don't know if the money you've given them for lunch is not just getting spent on something else, right? So it's that normalization that's problematic. It's lack of information and kind of openness and conversation and actual healthy attitudes towards eating, because these parents have also normalized this for themselves and internalized it, where, you know, many of the moms, when the daughter goes like, oh, I want to lose weight, she goes, oh, come with me, and like, we'll do a diet together, we'll start exercising, we'll go on walks together. It's a bonding activity, right? Or they start going to slimming worlds together, or Weight Watchers or whatever. That's horrifying. Right?
It's horrifying.
Because what they're going to teach you in the Slimming World or Weight Watchers is pretty much diet culture. What you are going to learn from observing your mom encouraging you and joining you is also potentially not the healthy way of doing that. Because if you say, oh, I want to eat healthier, okay, what does healthy mean? What is healthy food, right? Is healthy food including carbs or excluding carbs, right? Like that's one of those things that I like to kind of think about. Or like, what about your attitude as a family towards exercise? Is exercise because we enjoy it, we like movement, and we spend time together? Or are we exercising because we have to burn off dinner? Right? Oh, we had big dinner, we need to go and exercise now. What is your motivation for these things? So
this normalization is actually a real shit stir, isn't it? Because the whole problem is that all of these disordered behaviors are normalized in society, but also then we have on top of that what is normalized in our families. So we have both of those coming at us. And as you said earlier, this kind of this whole complimenting on weight loss, that's normalized. That's seen as something that we just do. Sometimes it's almost like we can't stop ourselves and the words tumble out. It's that kind of thing. Or talking about food, I volunteer in a cafe on a Friday, and the number of times I've heard people say, oh no, I'm going to be good, I'm not having a cake. And the number of times I've taken them up on that, I'm like, you are not murdering anybody by eating that cake. You are still good. It's crazy, but it's just so normalized that we speak like that. It's so normalized. Things like intentional weight loss are being applauded. It's so normalized that, oh, you're skipping a meal. Well, bravo to you. It's
Well done.
Yeah, exactly.
Ella, it's also in schools. So, you know, I think in my daughter's classroom, they were talking about getting rid of desserts in the schools because they're bad for us. And, you know, and it just
drives me nuts.
And actually, because I have been so vocal with her about it, she stood up and went, I think, you know, that you're making food into good or bad categories. I don't think you should. She kind of stood up for herself and went,
this did. Oh, well done.
Good.
Yeah, you know, and I think it is just systemic, isn't it? It's absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, it's part of the healthy nutrition is part of like the PSHE curriculum. But the problem is the moment you Google for healthy nutrition, you are getting green food, red food, should food, can't food, good and bad, blah blah blah, and it's like it's food. Like, sorry, but like fuck off. Like,
I know.
Yeah. Exactly, but
like, I'm sorry, but
I said it's the national curriculum. It's part of.
One of my things that I love to say, I'm not obsessed with cake, but it's just so easy to explain things with cake, right?
I love it. Yeah.
Why do we eat birthday cake?
Because it's celebration and it's yummy and it's
Exactly. You
yeah.
don't eat cake because you're hungry, right? You eat cake
No.
because it's celebration, because it's cultural, because it's heritage or
Mhm.
whatever. Like, oh, you know, I miss my mom. I'm going to pull out her cookies recipe and I'm going to make it and I'm going to think about my mom, blah, 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 right? It's not necessarily because I'm hungry and therefore I'm going to have if we only ate food because we are hungry, we would be eating brown sludge full of electrolytes, salts, minerals, and vitamins,
Yeah.
right? But that's not why
Yeah.
we eat, right?
No.
And that's not why we use herbs and spices and make things look palatable and delicious and visually appealing on top of that. It's like
Yeah.
food is so much more, and people love to just mess it up for everyone. Like, come on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So true. I want to use what Christine said about the school desserts and
Mm.
segue into your work with Body Happy Org. Do you like what I did there?
Yeah,
Working
I mean,
from
I saw
schools
it coming,
to
but
your work
yeah,
with
yeah.
schools, there, did it? So a little while ago, we had the wonderful Molly Forbes on our pod, who shared the fantastic program that she's running for schools. So can you tell us a little bit about your involvement with them?
Did you want to start it from the beginning?
Well, yes.
Okay, so I became aware of Molly via like social media, like where her first book came out, blah, blah, blah. And I was full on fangirl. I was like, oh my God, this is lovely, right? And at the same time, I had my wonderful dissertation student, Josie Binder, come to me with an idea for her dissertation. So her idea was to interview young adults who were sent to weight management as children, right? So usually following the NCMP, people are being told that they need to go into weight management to lose weight. Obviously, they call it weight management, no weight loss now, but blah,
Of
blah,
course.
blah, bullshit.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
what happened was we did a qualitative study. We only had a handful of participants whom we interviewed about their relationship to their bodies, their to food, to exercise, and themselves, and you know what's like long-term impact for a few reasons. One, existing studies of weight management weren't really talking about any outcome variables beyond things like weight, blood pressure, waist circumference, that sort of thing. There was literally 3 studies at the time that looked at overall esteem, but not like body esteem. So in terms of the impact on people's psychology, people's mental state, body image, eating disorders, whatever, that just simply doesn't exist. Secondly, the studies are never longitudinal. I think the longest we managed to find was 2 or 5 years. I can't remember, which is, you know, classic.
Mhm.
So if you are running a program with the kind of approach of we are intervening early in childhood so that we can have healthy adults, prove it,
Mhm.
right? And this might be my kind of personality kind of coming through where I'm a bit of a shit stirrer and I'm like, prove it. Like, show me the data, show me the receipts that your program is A, not harmful, and B, effective. And I can't find the data, right?
Mhm.
So what we were interested in was like, let's talk to these people, let's see what they are saying. And every single one of them, but first of all, every single one of them called it Fat Club. Right. Secondly, they were talking about both the really negative impact it had on them at the time, the long-term impact it had on them in their adulthood, including our participant who was 60 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what happened was Josie finished her dissertation, and obviously we are still writing the paper because I need more time and I just don't have it. I've got more pies than fingers because everything is cake. So I contacted Molly saying, because at the time she was running her anti-NCMP campaign thing, right?
Mhm.
And I said, oh, this might be of interest to you. And I sent across some information based on our study. And she said, oh, when you publish this, can you let me know? And, you know, embarrassingly, I still haven't done that. And then we had a few more exchanges, and then after a while, she was posting about the whole school culture change. And I contacted her saying, hey, do you have any efficacy of this? Like, do you have data that shows how this works, that it does work? And she was like, oh no, we would need we don't we would love to, we are collecting some data, but we need a scientist. And I'm like, hello. So that's how I got involved. And since then, we've done a little mini pilot type thing in one school. But the good thing is, it's I'm really excited about this one. It's even hard to talk about because I get like emotional about it. I was successful in securing some funding from the SENS DTP. It's an ESRC funded doctoral training program where you apply for a project, and specifically it's designed for that project to then be run as a PhD. So somebody is getting 4 years worth of funding and studentship, so like a monthly stipend, to actually properly investigate the impact of the whole school culture change as per Body Happy, starting this October. So sorry, I just realized, like, I know who it is, I know who's going to be offered this position, but they don't know yet, and they will find out in like few days.
Oh wow.
And it's killing me.
That's so
So
exciting.
So yeah, when is this coming out? Because it might be after
Oh, probably Friday.
Friday. Hey, I could absolutely like name the person and hope that they actually do find out on Wednesday, and then they, you know, this
Well,
will
it's
not be,
up to you.
it'll not be a spoiler. But yeah, we interviewed a bunch of people. We identified the person that we want this to go to, and yeah, I'm super jazzed. Molly is involved as our industry partner, as our external supervisor. So yeah, I'm so jazzed.
That is so cool. And we really, 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 really need that data. We really need to say, look, this is what works. This is what doesn't work. This is harmful. This is helpful. Without that, it's just, you know, it's the same old narrative, isn't it?
One of kind of my bees in the bonnet is that most interventions are short-term or one-off. But that's not how change happens. Right? Change takes a little bit more effort. It needs to be a bit more scaled up than that. So it's not good enough to be like, okay, year 8, this week you have 1 hour on media literacy, and whatever you see on the internet, you know, it's a highlight reel, and you know, it's not realistic, and it's filters and Photoshop. And then they finish that class and they go back to where they were, and nothing else has changed. Right? And who's to say that, you know, they finish that class, they go straight to lunch, and then they are picking up what they want, and the lunch person goes like, oh, that cake's going to go straight to your thighs. Everything's undone. Right? So we need to make sure that the environment that these kids are in, from the moment they're in school till they finish that school for those formative years, is respectful of their bodies, respectful of them, regardless of what they look like, that there isn't going to be any like weight-based bullying, that there isn't going to be a policy that tells you you cannot bring sugary snacks to school, or that you can only have organic or whatever. So the whole environment needs to be changed, so we can create these resilient young people who can then finish school and not give in to diet culture, and not have that predisposition for engaging in negative body talk and kind of behaviors that they feel might be health promoting but aren't, such as exercising out of guilt, right?
I got in touch with Molly last year, which I'm not gonna spend much time in this story at all, but my daughter had an enrichment day at school for science, and they brought in scales and tape measures for the kids to line up and measure their BMIs. And in that class, they had 3 kids with active eating disorders. They didn't ask us for permission. They didn't tell us that they were going to do that. They had no concept of it. I think the teachers doing PSHE had more awareness, but they weren't in communication through the school. And, you know, we've petitioned the head. We tried to get Molly into the school, but funding wasn't available. And so it's an uphill battle. But I was just so pleased that Molly is doing that trial in the school, and that you've got funding. That just makes me so happy for a PhD student. That's just fantastic. So,
And it's horrific that basically everything boils down to money.
money.
Right? If you want a proper intervention in schools or preventative kind of culture change, you need money for that. You need money if you want NHS to be able to provide more people with support so that they do not need to turn somebody away simply because they are not underweight, right? Because that doesn't mean that they are not under medical threat, right? They can be malnourished, they can have starvation syndrome at whatever size. So if we had better funding for the NHS, and there were more services, there was more consistency across services, and there were more literally just hands on deck doing the work. And believe you me, like, I know plenty of undergraduate students year after year who are more than happy to go into eating disorders, but like it's one thing to get qualified and it's another thing to actually get the job. Right? Because if the positions are not created, they're gonna have to go into private or whatever, right? So we need more funding, basically.
Yeah, always boils down to money, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sadly. But this is exciting. I mean, you can only start somewhere, right? And I think this project is going to be amazing, and getting some real quality data from it is going to be so important to maybe secure that funding that we so desperately need.
Yeah, we are hoping that this would be like the first steps in doing this. One of the things that we want to do as part of the project is, first of all, like do like a systematic review of existing interventions and preventative interventions. We want to run a single case study where each school is a case, because it's difficult to compare across schools because completely different contexts, right? So we want to do that in at least 3 different schools. And part of that intervention is to review the policies in the school. So for example, what's the lunch policy? What's the anti-bullying policy? All of that stuff. And then what we want to do is, at the end of the delivery of the whole school culture change, is to do a qualitative component where they hear from the teachers, where they hear from the other staff, where they hear from the kids themselves, so the pupils have a voice here, about like the acceptability of this, what impact did it have, and then bring all of that together and make some policy recommendations, and hopefully go as far as that with our work. Because if we can make change happen on a large scale, that you know, it's all well and good to go into individual schools, but how many schools are there? Like, come on.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we're so out of time, and we've run over by like 20 minutes because I couldn't get enough from you. Honestly, Kamila,
I can do this for hours.
I know. Well, we might have to have you back, as I've been saying to a couple of guests. I'm really interested in this research, and we'd love to just know as it progresses, just like some updates on it. But
yeah, maybe we can do that. We'll schedule in an update once you've got sort of preliminary data.
Annual update.
Please.
Annual update. Yeah. Thank you so much for. I mean, given that your fingers are in so many pies, we appreciate us being a pie. Is that, you know what I mean? We appreciate you putting your finger in our pie.
Sounds a bit weird.
I don't know, it's so bad. I didn't mean that at all. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? You should pause the recording at the point where I pulled that face with that and use that as my picture. When I Honestly, I need a new headshot. That headshot is like 4 years old.
Nice
It's lovely.
though. Should we?
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Camilla,
Thank you for
and
having me.
we'll chat to you soon.